This portion of programming on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by the Center for Workforce Development at Nassau Community College.
Did you recently graduate with an engineering degree, or are you close to finishing an accredited program? Need help preparing for the Fundamentals of Engineering exam to become a professional licensed engineer?
Gain the knowledge, skills, and confidence needed to pass the exam by taking the Fundamentals of Engineering exam preparation course. It takes place on Saturdays from September 29th through May 11th.
More information can be found by contacting the Center for Workforce Development at 516-572-7487 or by visiting ncc.edu.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. Let me tell you about this fine show we have here at the station called Motormouth Radio. It is a car show hosted by Ray Guarino and Joe D. But you know what? It's not just cars. Sometimes talk about other things, and even when they're just talking about cars, it's about the love of cars. It's about the feeling you get. You know, they open up a hood and they say, damn, I want to redo this engine. Not everyone says that. These guys do. And like I always say also, you know, you watch those cooking shows. You don't cook. You can listen to these guys, not know anything about a car. So please listen to Motormouth Radio every Sunday, 12 noon, right here on WHPC. And if you don't listen, that's your fault. You'll go through the rest of the day saying, damn it, I didn't listen. I should have listened. Sort of like Motormouth Radio. You don't have to like cars to listen to them. It helps if you do, but you don't have to. Thank you.
You're welcome, Rob. We are back with more Motormouth Radio. My CD took a crap, so we couldn't come back with our rejoiner.
I was going to say I wasn't ready for that.
I know, neither was I. But listen,
I'm trying to put the headphones on. I got one over my nose. That
we can hear you breathing better. It's just programming on the fly. That's what we do here. When things screw up, we make screw soup. I don't know. What can I tell you?
Screw soup. I like that.
I don't know. What the heck?
Is that when you put the rusty screws in the vinegar and you get the rust off them, and after that, screw soup?
Why not? Why not?
Hey, you know what? That's got to go in the Dakota.
It just
I
might.
like that. Screw soup. That's pretty good. Well, speaking of screwed, you want to talk about the Nova?
We got a few minutes.
You want to talk about the Nova?
Give us a quick background and then give us that problem.
Well, okay. It's a 1975 Nova SS hatchback with a stick from the factory. Power windows, air conditioning. Thing's friggin' loaded. It's a nice car, you know. But it ran like 2 bags of turds. Always did.
A few weeks ago, you had reported that it was running bad, and you thought it was going to be a fuel issue.
Right.
And now a worser issue came up just recently.
Oh, it was worse because our esteemed Dougie took it down to Cascarino's because last week was kind of the second half of the Malibu show there. Mm-hmm. They had a nice big gathering, and he barely made it back. I was already at the UD/CF garage. A little bit ahead of him after the show because I had some stuff I wanted to do. And that car came in sounding like, I don't know what had more smoke coming out of it, the car or Dougie.
Yeah, I can bet.
He was mad. Yeah. So anyway, what happened was it ran bad. We came up, it was like blowing smoke out of orifices that did not deserve to blow smoke out of. The exhaust was getting red hot.
Wow.
And there's a little incline right before the Nova's parking space on the next level. And what do you call it? What happened was that we just sat down and decided to dope it out because there was some other stuff going on and we really couldn't start working on it. And we bounced between carburetor problems / vacuum leak. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about timing, whether it be valve or ignition.
Carburetor was just gone through.
Yeah, I know that. Well, here's the interesting. He goes, the two guys, my 2 compadres there were thinking about the vacuum leak. So just to prove a point, I brought home a smoke machine.
Nice.
And smoke machines on a carburetor car are not that easy to do because you got to make a little hatch for the carburetor, and you got to use like about 3 pounds of dum-dum to seal off everything.
Right.
And yeah, we found a couple little vacuum leaks. There was a good sized one out of the throttle throttle shafts there, which I was like,
you said it was the secondary side.
The secondary side, that is
it's
correct.
The primary side,
right? Which was kind of strange.
If guys put too heavy of a spring or a turn spring,
sure,
it cocks that shaft.
Sure, because they want to really put the pedal to the metal, but that's that's a sociological / medical thing. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, yeah, but this ain't it. So I was like, you know what? I say it's timing. Now, this particular vehicle had an MSD mounted to the fender well with the nice little conversion harness with they took the module out of the HEI, the factory HEI distributor, blah blah blah, and I was like, you know what? So I could pull the connector rather than ripping the distributor part, and I ohmed out the pickup coil. 800 ohms. The spec is usually somewhere between 800 and 1,000 ohms. So I was like, yeah, okay. But then I said, let's start moving things around. Like crank the motor over. Like we pulled the cap and we started rotating, and all of a sudden, the resistance just dropped out. And I was like, wait a second. That's not good. And I was like,
indicative of like an open circuit.
A broken wire, whatever. I says, maybe it's the MSD interacting with the distributor, or maybe it's inside the distributor. We got to put a pickup coil. So the next thing I hear is, bah! And 2 minutes later, actually I got that the wrong way, but it's bah! And next thing I know, I see Johnny standing there with a whole HEI ready to rock.
Wires on it,
right?
Sparks still coming out of it.
Yeah,
it's still spinning.
The other engine was still running.
Right.
So in about 20 minutes, half an hour, we disconnect the HEI, got all the MSD, 3 letters, all the same crap.
I know, right?
And then next thing I know, we got an in-car runs pretty darn good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then I started doing an autopsy on the distributor, and sure enough, the pickup coil were rubbing as the advance would rotate. So it would drop the signal, bring it back, drop the signal, bring it back. And the MSD didn't know whether to retard, advance, or just maybe take second grade over again or whatever. Yeah. So, but I got to say, we got that one knocked now.
That was great.
That was pretty darn good.
I had an issue where I suspected an MSD was bad on one of my cars years ago, and I wrote to them and asked, from a technician's point of view, listen, are there any test points I can probe to look for voltages or signals? Can you provide me with that information? And the guy got back to me, and this is before email, and he said, no, it's a sealed unit, I was like, I already drilled out the rivets. It's like, the top is off.
Yeah, not for nothing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the circuit board and just tell me what, now I need the engineering parameter. And they were not willing to supply anything. They said, no, if it doesn't work, you need a new unit, send it back to us, we can diagnose it. I'm like, but I want to know what you know.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't want me to know what they knew.
That's secret sauce, that stuff right
exactly.
there. I mean, I don't know. I can't really, at that point, we couldn't really blame the MSD per se.
No.
But because the signal coming out of the distributor was so darn erratic. And
like the starter that on this car that I worked on, just like with you, it was the termination. It was a connection, one connection.
Right.
Now mine just decapitated.
Connection. Yeah, that's all it takes to ruin your day.
Mine decapitated just because of age. Yours decapitated because of poor installation. Whoever put it in X amount of years ago.
Right.
So, it doesn't really matter.
This thing sounded like it needed a friggin' motor at one point. We were, and but basically the smoke machine proved itself too, because it's not a vacuum. Well, it's not the vacuum. This is not the leak you're looking for.
Right. So they're going to address those. There are kits to rebush the throttle shafts.
Right. Well,
you got to pull it all apart, and you got to use there's a special drill like a reamer.
Right. Well, I mean, one of us is saying, fuel injection, but
there you go.
Then I got stuff thrown at me, so we'll have to.
It might run well enough like this that it ain't going to matter. It's going to be
that's what. Yeah, we got exhaust leaks. Like the smoke machine is going to get used again for the exhaust leaks. Although it's probably just a couple. It's got headers,
right?
So it's probably to collect the gaskets up top. But the other thing is, I always like to know what it is on fire. I always like to see the problem first before I take it apart.
See the problem.
Yes.
Be the problem.
Yes, you must. It's method. I think this is method mechanics.
Yeah. Well, we draw from a myriad of sources. That's for.
Well, yeah. That's the thing, because if these days, doing stuff is changing parts is expensive.
Yeah.
Or very labor intensive. So you want to change that sensor, you got to take 17 things out of the way.
Right.
Or that part is like $800.
Exactly.
So we had a Lincoln. And it had an erratic wheel speed sensor. And, of course, the customer brings a sensor. And I said, let's throw the scan tool on this thing. And I looked at the code. And we started spinning the wheel up. We put the thing up in the air. And we started spinning, Dougie was spinning the tire, and I was looking at the scanner. And sure enough, one wheel would give like 3 different mile-an-hour readings. The other one would be a nice, straight, flat line. And I was like, wait a second. This sensor works. There's nothing wrong with the sensor. Then we poked our heads under there, which, thank you, Ford. This is kind of like a Ford Edge. It's an MKX. You could see where the tone ring had broken apart, and it had, the signal was taking a little vacation. So guess what? It doesn't need a sensor. It needs an axle,
right?
Because you can't get that tone ring separate from what I could see on the interweb.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing. Guess what? A rebuilt axle is in roughly the same retail price zone as the ABS sensor.
Right.
I mean, a little bit more labor, of course, but
right.
The right part usually does cost less in the long run.
Yeah.
Rather than putting the sensor and then the axle.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But that's where troubleshooting is the thing. As some people put it, address the problem, identify the problem, confirm the customer's concern, or call them a moron and sober the hell up, and then we'll talk.
I want to read you a little piece I found in the paper today, which is kind of apropos for the time. DMV adds selfie zones is the title. In Dover, Delaware, the Division of Motor Vehicles there has installed safe selfie zones at its 4 locations.
Safe selfie zones?
To allow newly licensed drivers to share the news and not their personal details. BOC TV reports that the zones feature a bright backdrop in front of which people can take pictures of themselves to share on social media in lieu of sharing photographs of their driver's licenses. Apparently this has become a thing in Delaware.
No kidding.
According to the DMV information package, or their image, the top of the backdrop is emblazoned with the words, "Look who's driving now!" And the station reports that the idea is the brainchild of Dover DMV employee Willie Goldsboro. Last year, Delaware issued around 36,500 new licenses to minors and adults. So that's what it's coming to, Joe.
Here it comes. I mean, look who's driving now. Well, that's kind of like maybe it's a public service announcement as a warning.
To stay away from them, yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah. And I got to tell you another public service thing. Coming up in the weeks to come, we're going to have a fellow named Evan Smith on the show. He came on the Thursday Night Plane and Traffic show. And
is that like Evan Sinju?
Kind of, yeah. And it was Sinju. So I got a little turned around. Something seemed kind of right in my head, but I wasn't sure. And when I met him, I said, hey, you know what? I know a guy named Evan Smith who worked for Source Interlink. We've had him on this show a few times in the past. And I went on to say how I knew this guy. No, isn't it ironic you got the same name? And he says, Ray,
I am the same guy.
Yeah. And I was like, I had never seen him before because we had done a radio show with him. So I was like, oh, oops. Well, good. Now that we're off to that foot.
We're not a visual medium, as Chris used to say.
Right. That's exactly right. So Evan's down in Florida. He does a lot of, he's been doing a lot of drag racing, a lot of drag race photography. He's still an author and all of that stuff. So we're gonna. I threw it out to him. We're gonna get him in the weeks to come, and he's a great guy to talk to. He's a New Jersey transplant.
So, in other words, you're tightening up the net.
Pretty much.
Getting the net ready to go.
We always try to do that,
okay. Or the hook.
Or the hook. Yeah, hook, the net, or whatever.
By hook or by crook.
We throw it all out.
Or by schnook, whatever.
Well, by hook or by crook, we may get a schnook, or they're going to be talking to us schnooks.
Yeah.
And so that's what we got going on coming up on Motor Mouth Radio.
Yeah, other than that, if anybody's got any ideas, anybody wants to come on and stuff like that, we're here.
We play it as we sees it. So for Joe D,
WHPC
90.3 WHPC for Joe D, Ray Guarino. More Motor Mouth Radio next week. Stay tuned for Kim.
Bye.